China has invested $760 million in a fish farm project in the desert. This project helps China learn more about aquaculture in the desert, but the idea doesn't seem likely to work. In today's episode, we are going to tell you about China's amazing mega project worth $760 million, utilizing advanced technologies. In deserts during the summer months, the temperature ranges from about 45 degrees Celsius to 70 degrees Celsius. Most fish can't handle temperatures that are too high. The fish will die because there isn't enough oxygen in the water because of how hot it is. But China has still done a miracle in the desert this time. Aquaculture has not only grown very well as an industry, but it has also turned a dry desert into an oasis and become the most popular tourist destination in the area. It took hundreds of thousands of people and 50 years in China to change a large desert from a forbidden area with no people to a lush oasis. China is the country with the most deserts in the world right now. It is also the country that does the best job of managing its deserts. Records show that China has done a good job of taking care of more than 8,000 square kilometers of desert. At the same time, the country is making big steps toward expanding farming and raising animals in the desert by growing rice there, and letting a lot of cattle and sheep graze. The problem that threatened the livelihoods of millions of pastoralists living near the desert has been solved in a big way by the success of efforts to manage the desert. China can do a lot more in the desert than just that, of course. In 2006, it was said that China would start farming fish in the desert. A desert in Gansu was chosen. This desert is always very dry, full of yellow sand, and hard to get to. You have no idea how hard this project is or how many times China has tried and failed at it. In 2007, China began making a breeding base out of 1,200 mu of desert. Next, people from villages close to the desert brought water into the desert. Without a doubt, this will take a long time and cost a lot of money. Even though it will cost a lot of money to build roads, the problem with water resources has been fixed. In the first experiment, they thought that tilapia was a fish with a high vitality. However, due to the high temperature in the desert and lack of experience raising the fish in the desert, 30,000 fry were raised and died, and China's first attempt to breed fish in the desert directly failed, costing them $20 million. After this failure, they started looking for answers and learned a lot from other countries about how to farm fish in the desert. In fact, foreign countries have been farming fish in deserts for a long time. Many countries have already done this project. Aquaculture in the Sahara Desert in Algeria, for example, produces more than 100,000 tons of fish and seafood every year, and aquaculture facilities in the deserts of Israel and the United States do the same. Also, Mexico and the Middle East have been successful, and both of these places have a lot of information about how to raise fish in dry places. Experts think that China's past failures were caused not only by its lack of mature technology, but also by its problems with fish fry and water resources. Experts have done hundreds of tests and found that Chinese fish can't live in the desert for more than 10 days. They think that China's failures in the past were caused not only by a lack of mature technology, but also by problems with fry fish and water resources. In 2008, China decided to bring in experts from Algeria and Israel to help. Only rainbow trout that have been brought in from other countries did well in these waters. Its meat is tasty, it can live in harsh conditions for a long time, and it's worth a lot more than tilapia. Rainbow trout are native to North America's Pacific Ocean. There is nothing hard about living in this desert. Experts also found that there is a glacier on the edge of the desert that can send water to the desert after the iceberg melts, making a cold water fish industry belt. With the help of experts from other countries, China was able to solve its original problem of getting water from the desert. They are developing aquaculture in the desert while building roads for the desert. In less than 2 years, the aquaculture has shown clear results and made a profit of $20 million US. At the same time, they led the villagers near the desert to develop the aquaculture industry. Aquaculture in China's deserts has taken its first step towards success. Since then, this desert has become known as the home of rainbow trout, and experts from both countries have praised China's ability to learn and persistence, saying that in just a few years, China has developed the technology needed to fully raise fish in the desert. China's sense of self-worth grew a lot in 2012, which led the country to decide to release 600,000 rainbow trout fry and tenfold the size of its rainbow trout farming industry. China also began to build bases and dig river channels in order to get more water resources. There wouldn't be a flood in the desert this year, something that only happens once every 100 years. The water diversion project, the newly built water diversion canals, and the fish ponds in the industrial park were all washed away by the flood, along with 600,000 fish fry. This time, China went backwards in a big way. There's a chance you'll have questions about China's decision to start aquaculture in the desert. Why would China make such a decision since it has so much land? In fact, this decision has something to do with what China wants. China wants to help people who live near deserts realize their dreams of eating fish every day. Second, because of global warming, pollution of the maritime environment, and people's desire to fish, the global fishery is getting smaller, and all countries are looking for new ways to farm fish. China wants to help people who live near deserts realize their dream of eating fish every day. The same could be said about China. Overfishing, which is a problem in China, is one of the reasons why the country's fisheries can't keep growing at the same rate. About 9 million tons of fish are caught each year in China's waters, but 13 million tons are caught each year, which is more than 9 million tons. With more than 1.4 billion people living in China, the country needs more than 65 million tons of seafood every year. Due to overfishing, China doesn't have enough fish right now, so it has to import at least 100,000 tons of fish from other countries every year. China can't wait to grow its aquaculture industry because of this. Even though the flood killed 600,000 fry, it also made a place called a desert oasis. Because of this bad thing that happened, China learned that if it wanted to grow aquaculture in the desert, it also had to control the sand. It is hard to talk about any kind of business in the desert without first making sure that the environment is healthy. The ground is wet after a flood, which makes it a great time to plant plants. Also, dikes were built in the desert to keep it from flooding again. It took another 3 years to finish this huge project, which cost hundreds of millions of dollars and depended on the water that was diverted. Tens of thousands of acres of forest have been saved, and an area of desert that had been covered in yellow sand for hundreds of years has been turned into a beautiful oasis in the middle of the desert. This time, China has broken the development of desert fish farming into 3 stages. The first stage is building an open-air pond for fish farming. The second stage uses a semi-closed circulation system to seal up water resources for fish farming. And the third stage uses engineered circulating water for fully enclosed fish farming. All of these are high-tech things that aquaculture in Israel has done. Water treatment is the most important technology. Right now, China's technology for farming fish in the desert is working well in 2020. This is so that the desert fish farms can grow in the long term. China will combine fish farming and farming in the desert now so that it can still grow fish and water crops at the same time. 2 tons of potatoes are grown in the desert every year. People have planted vineyards and other types of organic vegetables in the desert. Tourism has also been developed in the desert so that people from far away can come to see the unique desert scenery and try the tasty fish. Due to the growth of the tourism industry in this area, tens of thousands of people come here every year. That's all. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment below if you agree with the points I made in this video.